Eric Dubay is at it again, this time trying to disprove or debunk NASA's top globe proofs. Has he done this? Will he finally prove that flat Earth can be something more than just a laughing stock? In short, no, but it's going to be fun watching anyway. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Flat Earth Friday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, I want to give a quick shout out and a thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Raycon. Raycon earbuds start about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds on the market, and they sound just as good as the other top audio brands that you know. Raycon's newest model, the Everyday E25 earbuds, are their best ones yet, with 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass and a more compact design that gives you a nice, noise-isolating fit. Using them every day is something that will make them a great gift for the holidays. During lockdown, for example, I often use them during a long walk to listen to an audiobook or some music. By the way, Raycon has a 45-day free return policy, so you can make sure they're the wireless earbuds for you. Now is the time to get the best prices of the year for these Raycons, but hurry, this offer is only available for a limited time. Click on the link in the description or visit buyraycon.com/simandan to get 20% off your first purchase of Raycons today. Okay, back to today's video and the Flat Earth Prince himself, Mr. Eric Dubay. Has he proven NASA wrong, or is he talking hogwash as usual? Let's find out.
You asked the question, what are some of the easiest ways that you can prove that the Earth is round? Because apparently this is something that we're debating. I have no idea why. That's a hard thing for me to even start talking about because there are so many proofs that the Earth is round, it's difficult to know where to start. And it's not okay to think that the Earth is flat. This is not a viable argument.
To begin with, if you truly believe the Earth to be a triangle or a dodecahedron, that is most certainly okay, and you're right to do so.
Absolutely agree, of course you do. But the second you start imposing that belief on someone else, then it's not okay.
We all have the right to our own thoughts, beliefs, experience, intuitions, and discernment, regardless of how common or widely accepted they are. Telling people up front that having an alternative perspective from yours is, quote, not okay, is incredibly narcissistic, abusive, and an attempt to infantilize the listener into accepting the fallacy of appeal to authority.
Okay, but she did say that there's a debate on the topic of the shape of the Earth, which, as you well know, Eric, is because of flat earthers. She was referring to the influx of YouTube flat earthers who are spreading this misinformation, which again is not okay.
It is absolutely okay to question the shape of the Earth. In fact, the scientific method itself requires constant questioning and experimentation to reach increasingly precise conclusions.
Well, yes, but you can't get much more precise than the shape of the Earth. After all, hundreds of people have seen it with their own eyes.
Once a scientific postulate becomes solidified into an unquestionable dogma, it becomes religion, not science. And people demanding your allegiance to their dogma, like Michelle here, are acting far more like evangelical priests than true scientists.
I'm sorry, I thought this was supposed to be a debunking NASA's top proofs, not a walk down philosophical way.
NASA themselves have already changed the alleged shape of the Earth thrice in their short history, first telling us we lived on a perfect sphere, then changing the shape into an oblate spheroid flattened at the poles, then changing again to a pear-shaped spheroid bulging out in the southern hemisphere.
All of which are almost perfect. You can't discern it with the naked eye. It's not literally the shape of a pear.
I have friends who have been on the International Space Station. They have orbited the Earth once every 90 minutes. I've had personal experience with people that have been up in space and can see with their own eyes that the Earth is round. And of course, we've taken all these amazing pictures from space. They're so beautiful, all those pictures of the Earth. So I don't really know what's going on right now with this Earth is flat thing.
Here, Michelle condescendingly delivers two more examples of sophistry, namely hearsay and another appeal to authority. Because she has some fellow Freemason Eastern Star actor-not friends who claim the Earth is a spinning ball, Michelle wants us to accept that kind of second-hand hearsay as scientific proof.
She didn't say that. She just finds it hard to believe, as we all do, that there are flat earthers out there, especially when people have actually seen it with their own eyes.
Then she laughs and talks about pictures. Pictures like these, you mean?
Oh wow, how many times do I have to debunk this one? Take a look at this.
Continent size depends entirely on how far away you're taking the photo. Look, this is a picture of North America on my famous globe, taken when I was very close to it. This picture though was taken from much further away, and I zoomed in to make them appear the same size.
And these? Michelle was directly asked for scientific proofs of her claim, and the first two she gives are, "because other people say so," and "because there's pictures." Well, Michelle, I know you already know this, but people can lie. Pictures can be faked, and neither of those are permissible as scientific evidence. So why are you dancing around the question with sophistry and condescension instead of just providing actual proof of your claim?
There are proofs all around you. It is not difficult to know that the Earth is round. In fact, people have known this for way more than 2,000 years. The ancient Greeks actually had a number of really elegant, wonderful proofs that the Earth was a sphere. One of the things you can see yourself with a pair of binoculars is if you actually go out to a lake and there are boats on that lake, the farther away a boat is, the more the bottom of the boat will disappear, and you'll basically just see the mast of the boat. And as a boat goes farther and farther away, the last thing you will see is the very top of the mast of that boat.
Cute, Eric, but you can bring it back with the P1000.
And that's because the boat is actually going over the horizon that's curved.
So once she finally gets around to her three supposed scientific proofs of a ball Earth, they are all from ancient Greek astronomers who have been debunked since the time they were presented, even way back then. Her first is the dinosaur claim that ships disappearing beyond the horizon hull first somehow prove the Earth to be a globe.
Well, where would you suggest that the hull is going, Eric?
The fact of the matter is that the law of perspective on plane surfaces dictates and necessitates this occurrence. For example, a girl wearing a dress walking away towards the horizon will appear to sink into the earth the farther away she walks. Her feet will disappear from view first, and the distance between the ground and the bottom of her dress will gradually diminish until after about half a mile, it seems like her dress is touching the ground as she walks on invisible legs.
I would like to see the setup on that one, because one of your own did a very similar experiment on a completely flat running track. And what results did he get?
Let's show you what I caught from this side.
The same happens with cars speeding away. The axles gradually get lower, and the wheels vanish until it appears as if the car is gliding along its body. Such is the case on plane surfaces. The lowest parts of objects receding from a given point of observation necessarily disappear before the highest. Now, with modern telescopes and cameras, we can prove this as well by successfully zooming in on ships that have gone beyond the horizon and bringing them completely back into full view, hull and all.
Except you can't do that. This looks pretty zoomed in to me, yet the hull is below the horizon. Care to explain that one, Eric?
Now, another way that you can tell that we're on a sphere is to think about how there's something called the tropics on the Earth. And the tropics are places near the equator of the Earth where sometimes the sun is overhead in the sky. And this was actually something that the Greeks used not only to prove that the Earth was round about 2,000 years ago, but they actually measured the circumference of the Earth accurate to within just a couple percent. There was a really brilliant Greek scientist called Eratosthenes. And Eratosthenes noticed that there was a town called Syene. And on a certain date, the sun would actually shine straight down to the bottom of a well. That meant the sun was directly overhead. You could look down a well and see the sun shining back at you. And on the very same date, farther away in the city of Alexandria, that didn't happen. The sun was not directly overhead, it was a slight angle. And all that Eratosthenes did was he measured the difference in the angle of the sun. And he rationed that that change in angle from one city to another was probably indicative of us being on a curved surface. So another really simple proof is that on any given date, at different cities and different places around the world, the sun is at different angles in the sky. That wouldn't happen if the Earth wasn't round.
Indeed, but I already know what Eric's going to say here. Something to do with you can get the same results with a local close sun.
For her second supposed proof, Michelle tells the story of Eratosthenes, who noted that at noon during the summer solstice in Syene, the sun cast no shadow, and the rays could reach straight to the bottom of his well. Yet meanwhile, in Alexandria, a vertically standing metal rod cast a significant shadow. By factoring the length of the shadow with his assumed distance to the sun, Eratosthenes recorded a measurement of Earth's circumference close to what heliocentrist astronomers still use today. The fact of the matter is, however, that Eratosthenes' calculations were made assuming the sun to be millions of miles away, so that its rays would fall perfectly parallel even in points as divergent as Syene and Alexandria. This faulty assumed premise led to his faulty conclusion, which was eventually exposed upon the invention of the nautical sextant.
Really, Eric? This should be good.
Using sextants and plane trigonometry, by measuring the sun's angle at 2 points on Earth simultaneously and factoring their distance from each other, the Pythagorean theorem reveals both the height and dimensions of the sun. Using this method, the sun and moon have repeatedly been calculated to be approximately 32 miles in diameter, 3,000 miles from the surface of the Earth. High-altitude balloon footage has also filmed lighting hotspots on clouds, proving the sun to be local and acting as a spotlight, and not a burning ball of gas millions of miles away, as supposed by heliocentrists.
That genuinely proves nothing. How is it that we can use trigonometry to get an exact distance to the sun, a method which involves bouncing radar off the planet Venus? How are we getting a signal back from Venus if it doesn't exist? How are we then using that information to get an exact distance to the sun? The angles to the sun that you measure on a sextant are because of the fact that you're standing on a globe and your position on the globe. You cannot then use those angles and determine a distance to the sun based on the fact that you could be on a flat plane.
After Eratosthenes, the globe-Earth theory completely disappeared from philosophical thought and recorded history for almost 2 millennia. Geocentric flat Earth cosmologies continued to reign supreme, with even Eratosthenes himself, touted as the father of geography, depicting the Earth as flat in his famous 194 BC map of the world.
But that was a very small area of the world, wasn't it, Eric? And since Eratosthenes, the globe was the accepted shape of the Earth. Yes, there has been many arguments since then on its position in space, but in terms of its shape, that was the accepted shape.
Then there are some other proofs that are a little more obscure, but they're actually really lovely. And one is to observe what happens during a lunar eclipse. Now, a lunar eclipse happens when the Earth casts a shadow on the moon. What's happening in that case is that the sun is on one side of the Earth is in the middle, and it's casting a shadow, the Earth is casting a shadow on the moon. And as the shadow moves across the moon, you'll notice that the shadow is curved, it's round. So something like the sun that's bigger than the Earth and is able to cast a shadow of the Earth on the moon can actually show you the shape of the Earth.
Her final and most ridiculous supposed proof of the shape of the Earth beneath our feet is accomplished by looking at a light in the sky. That's right. When you ask scientists for empirical, measurable proof of the shape of the Earth beneath our feet, they inevitably turn their noses up to the sky and start talking about the shape of things up there.
And why wouldn't they? Look at this here. How do you get this collage without a globe Earth? And before you cry fake, you can get these images yourself with almost any telescope or camera.
Imagine inviting a contractor over to your house to measure the dimensions of your floor, and he immediately gets out his tape measure and starts measuring all the recessed lights in the ceiling.
And the fact that right there you believe is a good argument tells us all just how misinformed you really are, Eric. Let's leave Eric for today. I think he needs some time to recover from that one. Bless him. Thank you all very much for joining me for another Flat Earth Friday. I really appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed it today, then please do drop a like on the video and subscribe as well if the feeling takes you. Just enough time to once again thank Raycon for sponsoring today. Remember, visit buyraycon.com/SimonDan to get 20% off your first order. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday for some more tinfoil fun. See you then.